Welcome back to the Unwatched Pile, the show where we dust off our unwatched films in our collections and then come here, we watch them, we discuss, and then we go back into our big collections here and we find a nice double feature pairing. I'm Stephen Billings. With me as always is Andrew Cabral. What's up, man?
Hello. So this is going to be man, it feels like we just did this new episode.
This is if you don't know, if you've never watched a show of any kind on Chasing Labels, this is Andrew's reaction to the fact
everything. That we're back here once again.
We're already here again.
To me, it goes by in a split second.
Well, Andrew does a show every week, so yeah, he's like, oh, we're back.
We're back again. It's like I never left. It's like it's like what's his name? Jack Nicholson in The Shining. You've always been here. And
exactly.
Like, what does that mean? I feel
well, like we know what it means. You're haunting the channel for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And it could be worse. Like
I'm stuck in a Stephen King loop over here.
Yeah, you could be
like over the hotel.
You could be a YouTuber that does like one every day. That's like on a schedule, and it's just like you never actually leave.
It feels like it sometimes, even though that's not the case here on Chasing Labels. But we're relatively more consistent now than we've been before.
We're consistently weekly show. Usually there's something that comes out at least once a week.
Yeah.
Usually.
Something out there in the overall Chasing Labels universe is usually coming to you in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
Today we're doing the Unwatched Pile. Tomorrow we're going to be doing our newest episode of Movies Down Memory Lane, which we will be talking about Memento. Talk about manipulating time. Coinciding with Christopher Nolan's new movie, The Odyssey. So that's a nice little
I can't wait.
Connection there.
Are you going to watch it in time for tomorrow night?
I don't know. I'm going to try to. It is a 3-hour movie. I can tell you this. It probably won't be seeing it in IMAX because all the IMAX screenings locally are sold out all weekend long. Like all of them.
So
like 10 from 10 in the morning to 10 at night.
I believe it. So you're not going to see it probably because you're not. I don't see you getting up early enough tomorrow before we do the show to see.
I may surprise you. It all depends.
Please surprise me because I'd love to talk to you about it.
Speaking of The Odyssey, Josie's apparently seeing The Odyssey on Tuesday, which I think a lot of people are going to wait till the whole mad dash rush weekend and then see it afterwards.
If I could see it again right now, I would. But I would leave the show right now to go see it.
I've seen people online have seen it 3 times already.
I know Dan. I know our friend Dan. I think I know he was set up to see it 3 times in before Thursday because he's a critic. So he saw it Monday, and then he was supposed to see it twice. I think he said like on Thursday for some reason. I don't know why on the same day, but yeah. So yeah, some people are going crazy. But I'll say just quickly, it was great. At least I thought it was great. But we'll get into that tomorrow. But yeah, we always got something on here on Chasing Labels. If you don't subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can go to our audio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, subscribe there, keep up with this on the audio platforms. And yeah, we're here tonight for Unwatched Pile though. So as usual, we try to always have a guest, and we have a first timer to the Unwatched Pile. He's been a guest on the flagship show Chasing Labels. He is he's a film enthusiast, Mr. Connor Moriarty. How you doing, man?
Thank you, Stephen. Andrew, good to see you. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. My first time doing a show with you. You did Chasing Labels with Andrew a little while back ago, and you did one of the marathons over there.
It was a great time.
Yeah, I'm glad you had a good time. We'll definitely like to have you back at some point, if you're up to it. So, yeah. So tell us, since if nobody's saw your episode of Chasing Labels, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what your interests are, what you're into, what you do.
Yeah. So general movie film enthusiast, have been so since I was about 10, 11 years old. I think like everybody else, I start on my Jurassic Parks and Terminator 2s and Lord of the Ringses, and then you kind of graduate to your very niche taste. So my very niche tastes are mostly genre films from Italy and Japan and Hong Kong. But judging by my pick today, Italy is my number one favorite country for films. And, that could go for your Fellinis and your Antonionis. But mainly I am like all in on my Argentos and Fulcis, my Leonis, my Corbucci's, my Solimas, those.
He's got it. He's got all the names, man. He's
all of the
floating 'em out there.
Italian names. It's like a Rolodex.
Yeah.
Since I was in high school, this has been like my number one fascination, and it's kind of been like my biggest connection to physical media, because we're talking 2010, 2011. It was hard to get some of these. Like Blue Underground had a great DVD selection. Anchor Bay, old school Anchor Bay, had a great DVD selection, but unless you were real savvy with, locating things on the internet, it was really hard to see a lot of these movies with either an English dub or in English subtitles. So the movie I'm talking about today was a movie that, I had heard about at that time, and it took a long time for it to finally drop on physical media. And then what do you know? I get the Blu-ray, and it takes me years and years to finally pop
you're
it
just
in.
like, I'll wait a little longer, I guess.
We've all been there.
Exactly. We have. That is the story of this show. It's how it all began for us. And now we just try to redeem ourselves just a little bit at a time.
Absolutely.
But awesome, man. We're glad to have you here tonight to help you take one more movie off that Unwatched pile. Before we get into the normal programming, we got Josie in here saying hey, and also talking about some first time watches herself. Karate Warrior, City of Hope, Showboat. Is that a Hitchcock?
No, it's
James
not.
Whale.
James,
Whale
you're right.
musical?
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
I think Criterion's put that out.
Yeah.
City
Seventh
of Hope
Voyage
is
of
the John Sayles movie, which I think I did an Unwatched Pile episode on that. Like one of my choices, I think, was that.
Maybe. Yeah. Seventh. That's obviously probably in preparation for our Odyssey film. Four Lions. That sounds familiar. I think I own that. That might be an Unwatched Pile future for me. I think I have that. Secret of Kells and Excalibur, which is I've finally watched for the first time myself not that long ago. It's great. Josie's got which of these have we seen? Any thoughts on any of them?
Well, for me, Excalibur is one of my favorites, I think, of all time. To me, it's still the best King Arthur related movie that we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
It's
pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, it's directed by John Boorman, who I think is kind of somewhat underrated.
He's getting some love lately. Didn't he have like a documentary or something?
Yeah, because he famously directed Exorcist 2, Heretic, which people do not like at all. Famously, people pretty much say skip over Heretic 2 and go straight to
3.
Straight to Exorcist 3, which is much better. I do agree, is much better than Exorcist 2. But he also directed like Deliverance, Point Blank, some other movies that I can't quite remember. But I've always been a big fan of John Boorman.
Deliverance.
Yeah.
Deliverance for sure. Yep. Yeah. That's a good one. And of course, rest in peace, Sam Neill. We'll get into that a little bit. I know Andrew talked about Sam Neill on Chasing Labels, so you can go and listen to him give a little bit of tribute to that. But what I in time chose a Sam Neill movie tonight, so I will be discussing him a little bit here tonight. But I'm sure we'll get into anybody's thoughts about Sam Neill when we get around to that. And Josie also asked if I've seen the 1998 Merlin with Sam Neill. I don't think so.
It's a TV miniseries from back in '98, which is kind of like a lost art, I think, in media. The miniseries events. I know we have them like on streaming and stuff, but
we have limited series. Yeah, it's not the same when you can see it again like right away.
Or where they drop every single episode all at once. Usually they would. Back the way miniseries would be, like they would air parts like one night, maybe a week later, or maybe the following night they'd air the rest. I'm thinking of like big time miniseries, like Roots in the 70s was a big time TV event, which everybody watched. What was it? There was the one on the Civil War. Was it North and South? I think from the 80s. There's all kinds of big time miniseries that have happened, but it's gone away over the years.
Band of Brothers was HBO.
Oh yeah. That was an HBO, and then they also did the Pacific, which was kind of like a Band of Brothers, but in the Pacific. Appropriately titled.
She's also been watching a lot of Animaniacs on TV.
A childhood favorite of mine.
Childhood favorite, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, now that we're through some comments, let's get into it. As usual, routine, we go with the guest first. So, Connor, please tell us about your first time pick.
So, my pick for this episode is Property is No Longer a Theft, directed by Elio Petri, who if you're a Criterion collector, you might be famous with probably his most famous film, Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, starring John Maria Volante. Amazing movie.
It's a great movie.
So this is put out by Arrow Academy, which is a discontinued sub-label of Arrow Video. I think everything is Arrow Video now. They don't do the separation anymore.
I think when our man Radiance Fran left, it kind of all left with him, like that, because he was the spearhead for that part of that Arrow Academy. I think was kind of like a lot of it was through him, and when he decided he was going to leave, I think all that kind of like got sucked up, and
they kind of consolidated the titles
to just make everything Arrow under Arrow.
Arrow is one of the only kind of boutique labels that doesn't have a sub label really of any kind. No. Other than when they were doing Arrow Academy, which was more like specific niche titles, like this one here.
Yeah. It was more dramatic, less away from like popular or horror titles. It was more dramatic work or critically acclaimed work.
Absolutely,
yeah. So
it's pretty much exactly what Radiance is today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a class parody drama crime thriller. So the main star is Flavio Bucci, who off the cuff might not know who that is, but he plays the blind pianist in the original Suspiria. So horror fans will definitely be aware of what the actor looks like. Also stars Daria Nicolodi, who famously Dario Argento's one-time wife, mother to Aja, star of many, many famous Italian horror films. Score from Ennio Morricone. This is definitely one of his more unique scores. Definitely not like anything you've ever heard in any of his other works. One thing I figured this out in my research. So the cinematography in this movie is fantastic. There's a lot of very expressive, dreamlike sequences in the film, and they're all beautifully shot. So I'm going to butcher this gentleman's name, Luigi Cuvelier. So he did cinematography for Petri, longtime collaborator with Petri. Also did cinematography for Argento, shot Deep Red, worked with Lucio Fulci, Lizard in a Woman's Skin, and New York Ripper, and then also did cinematography for Paul Morrissey on his Dracula and Frankenstein films. So
yeah.
Pretty incredible pedigree, and I was really impressed with that when I saw that. So a lot of great talent working together on this one. But the basic plot is a bank teller becomes pretty disillusioned with the system after he's denied a loan. And he decides that he is going to become a nightmare for the local butcher, who he thinks is like the epitome of the most disgusting kind of person that comes into the bank. And he also happens to be, one of the bank's best customers. So
of course,
he steals his favorite knife. He steals the butcher's hat, and he eventually ends up stealing his mistress, who is played by Daria Nicolodi. Excuse me, guys.
No, it's okay. Understand it. Every once in a while, Andrew goes through a sneezing fit or it happens. I'm just saying. Sometimes sometimes something happens.
Yeah. Throughout the film, there's a lot of these metaphors for how we all kind of exist under capitalism, but it all kind of boils down to no matter what kind of rebellion you do. In this case, it's stealing from the rich, someone you think is, this disgusting epitome of what you think is like the worst kind of person. Unless you go after the system itself, the status quo is going to take over again. And what's unique about this movie is that Petri literalizes everything. So the bank teller's name is Total. He is literally allergic to paper money and has to wear gloves while he counts money. The butcher's shop is all decked out in marble countertops, marble walls. It looks like a cathedral. There's this big sign on the wall that says "Man is a carnivorous animal." Daria Nicolodi's character talks about sex like she literally uses like, "Oh, I feel like I'm clocking in to work every time I'm with him." So definitely like commenting on the property that is the hat and the knife, but that the mistress is also property.
Yeah.
As an object. There's all these vignettes where every character kind of introduces themselves. So there's, the main characters I've talked about, but there's also a police inspector that talks about kind of his role in everything. They all break the fourth wall. They're all talking directly to us, talking to the audience. There is a funeral scene for a thief where it's the most hilarious eulogy, where the man giving the eulogy says, like, you should all be grateful. This man was a great thief. He did this great service to society. Without him, without thieves, there would be no law enforcement. There would be no security companies. Like, all of these enterprises would be out of business. You would all be out of work. You'd all be, you'd have no access to any kind of means. It's very funny. The film itself is very expressive. Like I said before, it's hilarious. And then it's also atmospheric. Morricone's score, there's notes that feel like they're like locusts hissing. I don't know what instrument he uses to achieve this sound. And it all comes together in a very unique experience that, if you are a fan of any of the films or filmmakers that I've mentioned so far, I think is a really great watch, even though it is a little bit more underknown.
Okay. Well, I mean, it seems like it has. I mean, I have not been able to. I have some of Petri's other work that I haven't watched yet, but since it seems like you're way more educated on his work, does he typically do a lot of movies like this where they're like kind of maybe would you call it satirical? Would you call it like Saturday, like talking about political and social things through a lens of a little bit of comedy, dark comedy? Does he do that normally a lot?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. So
because that's one I had seen for sure.
Yeah. So this is definitely more serious. This is more of a crime film. Like, you can put it in the Polizioteschi subgenre, even though it is much more serious.
Sure.
I think the difference between Petri and other filmmakers that existed in this space at the time, he's more interested in the topics at hand. The other films are too, but they're also interested in car chases and shootouts and fist fights and tons of grotesque violence, which is awesome, but they're different. It's different strokes. I think this is more of a straight up drama. If you have the Radiance release of
I do. I've seen that one as well.
Class Goes to Heaven. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, it seems like, I mean, like the way you're describing your first time watch here, there's a little bit more comedy than maybe some of these other two.
Yes.
Like, it feels like the other two are kind of more like he's way more interested in the absurdity of like what's going on. So he emphasizes that absurdity without the comedy. But in this one, he uses that comedy to his strength.
Yeah, these three kind of form an unofficial trilogy of sorts. Investigation of a Citizen is the more serious one. Working Class Goes to Heaven is a combination of the two. I think
it has a little bit, that I remember.
It's the middle ground, and then Property is No Longer Theft. I feel like someone gave him a blank check, and he just went full on.
He just went
satire.
with it. Yeah. I completely agree. Just stylistically, I would say that movie is probably the most chaotic of the three. Like, the movie is very wild in terms of just handling the plot and all those themes and elements as well. And it's so, like I said, the other ones feel like controlled chaos. This one just feels chaotic in terms of its approach, of its story and the characters and the scenes. And he just throwing everything at you as an audience, like all of those themes you're talking about. He's throwing them all at us, and he's just like, here, take it and make your conclusions from this, even though he's pretty darn obvious in terms of what he's saying, in terms of like the social commentary of it all and all that kind of stuff. And what is interesting is that, like, I think maybe if you're a little bit in tune with Italian society of the 70s, you may understand the context a little bit more. But I don't think you really need to know that much about what's going on in Italy at the time, because, like you said, it is very much a critique of capitalism through the lens of somebody who is a self-professed communist in the movie. He professes that many times, and he's and the themes in it are constantly communist type themes and philosophies and political ideations and stuff like that. And yeah, the movie is interestingly chaotic, and also it's kind of fighting against an overwhelming machine that is capitalism. Like, there is no true escape from it, no matter how much you try. A little pessimistic, I would say, in terms
I mean,
of
I think
his
that's
approach.
like you said, it's like all three of them movies kind of feel like
And
that's
and they all
know,
have that kind of fighting
'cause
against some type of allegorical machine. But yeah, those three movies, for those of you listening and watching at home, are a spiritual trilogy, if you will. They're like a neuroses trilogy, from what I've read. Investigation of Citizen of Suspicion is about the neuroses of power. Working class goes to heaven. It's a neuroses of work, and I think this would be probably a neuroses of, I don't know, economics, really. It's an interesting trilogy of movies, and that specific release that Connor has is out of print. So if any of you come across it, grab it while you can. There's a UK release and a US release, and both of them are out of print. It came out in 2017, which is now, goodness, how many years ago was that? 9
almost
years.
a decade.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious, Connor, have you had it since it came out?
I think I got it a few years later. I think
Okay.
this was good. I got this in like a Orbit DVD half off Arrow sale.
Oh, what a steal!
Yeah, so that was a good one.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every once in a while you get one that slips under the radar.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
To touch on that too, I mean, there's so many interesting conversations. I know I talked about the funeral scene. There's a scene also where, to Andrew's point, he's talking to the butcher and like he's saying that there's no one ever went broke from theft. You can steal all you want from people. You're not gonna ruin their lives by stealing from them. It's never gonna happen. They have too much. And that he's like, if you wanted to break the system, you'd have to go shut down the post office. You'd have to go shut down the police station. You'd have to get everybody else to come to your side, and you'd basically have to have a revolution. So it, like I said, it's very upfront. Like it's definitely something like we'll talk about. There are other movies that kind of make these points, but I think what makes this unique is Petri's direction and his vision. And like Andrew said, like throwing kind of everything at you, sensory wise.
Yeah, the movie plot wise is so chaotic. Like what a difficult movie to watch. But yeah, Elio Petri is such an interesting director. I wish more of his work was more available because, like I said, Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, I think is most notorious because it's been put out by Criterion, and Criterion is widely available.
Yeah. Best foreign language film winner at the Academy Awards the year it came out too. I think that's another boost for it.
For sure. All right. Well, we'll get back around to see what you're pairing with that. Andrew.
Yes.
Please take us your way.
Yeah. What's interesting, so even just kind of going from the movie that Connor was talking about and going to Going My Way couldn't be more different. Like Elio Petri is interested in investigating society and the systems that govern society and the systems that run everything and all this kind of stuff and making us aware of it. Going My Way could not be
could not give two shits about that. No,
it just like touches on it ever so briefly and then just moves on to being a wholesome, heartwarming movie from the 1940s starring Bing Crosby. It's very much so. It's Best Picture winner from 1944. It won 7 Oscars back then. So this is a relatively critically acclaimed movie. Every single year come Oscar time, when there's this big, long, gargantuan ranking of Best Picture winners, this one's always like towards the bottom half, I would say, the bottom portion. It's a relatively kind of somewhat forgotten movie of its time when it comes to classic Hollywood and whatnot. And I can kind of understand why. It's a very much a middle of the road, like I said, wholesome, heartwarming film starring, a big time star of the time, a multifaceted, talented actor, singer, just performer, entertainer in general in Bing Crosby. And for those of you who have not seen this movie, it takes place primarily within a parish. And Bing Crosby plays a priest in this film, and he is brought to this parish by the bishop because the pastor who has been at this church called St. Dominic's, I believe in New York. He's been at that parish for 45 years, and he's getting up there in age. So that church needs some rejuvenation. It needs some help. It needs to have somebody come in to help fix things that are going on with it, because that church actually has some other issues, like actual issues going on with it. For example, I didn't know that this was a thing. The church apparently owes like a mortgage to a local bank, and I'm like, I don't know. I've never heard of a church owning a mortgage before.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
1940s.
I thought that was all like
Considering that the Catholic Church doesn't pay taxes or anything like that, so I don't understand why they would owe a mortgage on the building of the church. But anywho, it's 1940s, completely different time, completely different era, obviously. So perhaps that factors into it. But from a modern lens, it is a little odd, but it works for the story, I guess. But anywho, this pastor, this older gentleman pastor who's been at this church, St. Dominic's, for 45 years, is up there in age, and he's very much set in his ways. He's conservative. Yeah, he literally, like they keep saying, he literally built that church from the bottom up. But the younger priest and Bing Crosby's been brought in to essentially replace him. But the Bing Crosby character doesn't want to, do it with any sense of malice or any sense of taking over. He actually doesn't even want to tell this older priest that he is there to replace him. He just kind of wants him to continue to do what he's doing, but in the background, he'll start doing his own thing. And what his own thing is he's very much, aware of the local community, aware of the changing of the times, that things are different now compared to they were decades ago. And he's very much there to kind of, move things along progressively when it comes to the churches, or it comes to, I would say the church's activities within the community. Like he wants to, like for example, in the movie, he starts a young choir with all of the kids in the neighborhood to give them something to do other than being like, juvenile delinquents on the streets. People don't like that because it's a change, and it's not the usual tradition of things, and it could be annoying to some people. I mean, he wants to like do like outreaches within the community and help people within the community, which is, not something that is typically done. So he's bucking up against the traditions of the role of religion, the role of priests within the neighborhood, and that creates a little bit of a conflict. But like I said, that conflict is very brief, not touched on a lot. It's not delved into a lot when it comes to the overall role of the church and religion in the community. It's kind of there, gets resolved, and then we just move along to more heartwarming things, like him helping other people dealing with certain personal problems, him helping guiding people within the community who are dealing with certain issues, him dealing with, like the banking situation and whatnot. And you get a little bit of his backstory along the way and why he became a priest and all this kind of stuff. Like I said, it's a rather even keel kind of medium neutral movie. It's not, I don't think it's bad. Some people on Letterboxd think it's like super bland and boring. And then some people think, oh, it's wholesome and charming. It's really nice and lovely, beautiful themes. Bing Crosby, of course, is singing up a storm in the movie. You can't have Bing Crosby in a movie and not have him sing. I mean, come on, it makes sense. The same thing with like they did with Frank Sinatra in most of his movies. You have to have him sing. Same thing with Dean Martin. You got to have him sing for the most part. But it's a fine movie. Like I said, it doesn't hit on the themes that it presents very hard in any way, but it's very much a movie also of its time. It's 1944. It's not going to be a radical movie in any way. Although there were movies of that time that I think delved into this situation or delved into these themes a little bit more. I mean, I'm not choosing this movie as my pairing, but something like The Black Narcissus would be something that is dealing with religious oppression and how psychologically it affects people and things like that. This movie, nowhere near on that thematically depth of a level at all. But a wholesome, fun movie. If you're a collector of Best Picture winners, you're probably going to want to get this. This Blu-ray here is the 75th anniversary edition. Gives you a sense of when this came out. Put out by Shout Factory through their Shout Select line. Has a few special features on here. There's an audio commentary with pop culture historian Russell Dyball. There's several like interviews in here done with Bing Crosby back in like the 40s and 50s. One by Edward R. Murrow, which I thought was really interesting. They did like a split screen where they were interviewing Bing Crosby at his home, and Edward R. Murrow was in studio. And this was, I think, the 1950s or so. I thought that was kind of revolutionary for its time to do that on television. And then there's other like performances by Bing Crosby as well in there. But yeah, it's a movie I've always wanted to see. I remember seeing it on DVD all the time, and I've always had a Best Picture like section in my collection. So this is going to go in there. I can't remember what one in 1943, but it'll be somewhere after How Green Was My Valley and Casablanca. It'll be around there somewhere. So yeah, that's going my way.
All right, going my way. Sister Act, is that going to be your pairing?
No. I'll give you a hint. Well, yeah, I'll say my pairing will not be entirely religious based.
Okay.
Now the more I thought about it, I didn't think it would be religious based at all. I was thinking of some movies that I don't have that would have paired well. For example, like The Bishop's Wife with Cary Grant,
sure, yeah.
Or The Preacher's Wife with Denzel Washington, 2 movies I honestly don't have. That would pair well with it. But I got one that immediately came to mind.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go with that one. We'll get to it though. We'll do it.
We'll do it. All right.
There we go.
So Andrew kind of knows where this is going. I've talked to him a little bit. Okay, so let me say up front. I mean, I've seen my pick. My first time watch, and I wanted to pick this because I had to find a movie in my collection that I hadn't seen that had Sam Neill in it, and I only had one left that I hadn't watched, and that was The Final Conflict, Omen 3. Now you look this up; it's going to say The Final Conflict. It didn't even say Omen 3. But this is the third film in the Omen trilogy. It did end up having a fourth film, and then they did a remake. They're all in the once again, another Shout release that we're looking at here. So a lot of Shout love tonight. But I'd seen the original a while back ago, and I don't remember how much I loved it or not. It'd been a while, so I rewatched it. I have to say, I don't really love the first Omen. It's okay. It's like fine. I was like, it's fine. It's like, you know, like it's got Gregory Peck in it. That's kind of cool. You like it's got some prestige there, but and it's got its moments, but the movie is kind of dry for me. I didn't love the movie. I just skipped 2 because I didn't have time to watch 2.
I can summarize it for you if you like.
Sure,
I did watch it.
Yeah. I know he's 13 now, and it's like
he's in like a military school in the Omen.
Oh,
2.
so like Chucky, that Chucky movie.
Yeah. Now I connect it. And he is now living with his aunt and uncle. His uncle is portrayed by William Holden.
Yeah, so William Holden. So they got another like legacy actor in there again.
Yeah, so it's like, let's get, like you're saying, let's get an old Hollywood actor in there just to sub him out. And he is now he's a little more aware of who he is than in the first film. In the first film, he's like a young child of like 5 years old. In the second film, I believe this is about 7 or 8 years later. So like you said, he's like 13 years
13,
old.
Yeah.
And he's now becoming fully aware of who he is and what his role is in the world of being the Antichrist. And he is doing it's kind of similar to the first movie. Bad things are happening because of his power set and stuff like that. People are, initially not really aware of it, and then they become aware of it, and then kind of the same conclusions we got from the first movie happen in the second movie, kind of in the same manner. They kind of end the same way. If you've seen the original Omen, you understand how that movie ends. If you've seen, the Omen 2 ends in the same fashion. There's not a lot going on with this franchise, unfortunately. Then you get to the Omen 3, which which we've seen. Final Conflict. We have an adult Damien now. Damien.
Yes. Okay. So adult Damien, played by Sam Neill. Rest in peace. Love him. I've always been a fan. Of course, Jurassic Park's an all-time favorite of mine. And of course, I think that was where a lot of us were introduced to him. But then after that, for me, as you talked about on Chasing Labels, Event Horizon, In the Mouth of Madness, things like that. Connor, talk a little bit about Sam Neill.
All the all the titles you mentioned. I mean, he is kind of like one of those gateway actors, I think, for a lot of us who call movies a passion. Just between Jurassic Park for me, Jurassic Park 3 is right alongside that. I cannot even tell you how many nights I stayed up watching it over and over again because it just played on Stars all the time.
he's somewhere between a leading man and a character actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like right in the middle because he never became a giant star, but he was like leading movies every once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
and he would always take chances. Like
he was very recognizable. If you saw him, you'd know him.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that person looks familiar, and it's Sam Neill.
And of course, he's an Australian actor, and he was doing a lot of Australian work.
Well,
too.
He's from New Zealand.
I thought
yeah.
Man,
either way,
come on, it's like the same thing.
I guess I don't know. I don't want to insult any Australians
it's not the same thing. Sorry, all of our Australian friends.
But it's interesting. It's kind of interesting you mentioned that because there are very few instances in movies where you actually heard his real voice, like his real New Zealand accent.
Well, I mean, what was it? The one he did,
Hunt for the Wilder People.
Hunt for the Wilder People. That's a good one. Yeah, where he kind of could play himself, I guess.
Yeah, but similar to what Connor is saying, Jurassic Park was a gateway, I think, for all of us. I saw that movie in the theater when I was like 6 years old, so I've been aware of Sam Neill, for a very long time. And like Connor said, Jurassic Park infinitely rewatchable. It was always on television. I've had it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. They just released the 4K twice.
Been no other paleontologist.
I don't know of any other paleontologist in movies that are that recognizable.
Yeah. There's no other ones. Yeah.
I dressed. Alan Grant is the first Halloween costume that I was ever like to my parents. Like, I need to dress up as Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. Like, I've grown up,
flannel, please.
They had to go find me the hat. They had to find like the right kind of button-up shirt, the right pants. Yeah. It was like very important to me that I perfectly replicate. I didn't even know he was, who he was at the time. He just was Alan Grant.
Yeah, he was Alan Grant, man. No, he's going to be missed for sure. And I know he's got some work that still hasn't released yet, I believe. So we'll
I think there are 2 projects still need to come out. I think they're coming out actually next year. Yeah. From what I was reading from an article. Some other movies that he was in, The Piano, speaking of New Zealand, Jane Campion's film. He's in that. He's in Possession from 1981. Ironically, I think Possession and this movie that you're talking about, Stephen, came out in the same year. They both came out in 1981.
One's very impactful, and the other one is
kind of forgettable. Yeah, we'll lead you to which one is which, but let's just say it's not Possession that's forgettable for sure.
No, it's not that one. But yes, let's just say I'm glad I'm able to talk about how great Sam Neill is in general, but this movie is not good.
No. and what sucks is he's actually great in it.
He's as good as the material allows him
exactly.
to be.
Yeah, he elevates the material from being like down here to elevates it up to like a middling ground.
Because even when I would say he's being pretty good, it's almost kind of laughable because of like the movie is just so bad.
What's unfortunate for me is this concept. I don't want to just trample all over Steven, but I'm just so passionate about this. The concept of this movie is fascinating. Could have been done so much better.
It's fascinating. So he's obviously Damien the Antichrist, and now he's an adult. He's getting into like the human world. He's kind of getting into politics. And he's like the right hand man to the president.
He's an ambassador now to Great Britain. The Gregory Peck character was in the first film. So it's an interesting social commentary of like, if the Antichrist were to come, how would he infiltrate our world? Well,
it makes sense.
He'd be put in the most powerful position, which is politics. Yeah. You put him in a political family, rises up, family's rich, money, power,
And the story essentially is that they find out that the second coming is going to happen soon, and they got to find a way to stop the new divine being from coming back, just like he came to years before. So they got to try to stop the next Christ or whatever from coming back. So now he's going around killing babies all over the place to try to stop Christ from coming.
Yeah, like nobody picks and no one picks up on this. Like the authorities never get involved in all of the random infant and child death that's happening. Just sequentially.
Dude, as somebody that's a parent, it's hard. It's kind of hard to like a movie that outwardly kills a bunch of children.
These are like
in all different
infants,
ways,
like newborns. So
newborns.
So basically, like there's this, I guess, prophecy where all of these stars are going to align, and it's going to create a new star kind of like the Star of David from the Bible, and that Christ is going to be born on, I think it's March 24th, 1981. So he gets wind of it, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to have all of the babies born on that day gotten rid of it, which is an ambitious plan to say the least. And he doesn't even, there's not even like a grand plan to it. He just like makes a couple of phone calls and has people do it. And it's like, what? And the movie's so underwritten.
Episode of The West Wing or something.
Yeah.
President.
Yeah, and it's like no one questions him at all. There's one scene in the movie that I think is fantastic. There's a scene where he is like opening, like it's like Sam Neill's like theater scene where he almost like Shakespearean monologuing to a crucifix of Jesus, and he's just talking to him as if he's actually present there.
Yeah.
And it's a really great scene. Like it's like I said, it's like theater acting. It's just him in this crucifix and him just going off, really. But the movie is everything else about the movie, like we're saying, is not really that good.
It's kind of boring. Personally, I mean, and that's what I kind of feel about the whole series. Like the series, like at its core has like some potential, but it like never feels like it gives you enough to like.
It feels like we're waiting around for something grand to happen, and it never does.
It never does.
It just never does.
Because something that's biblical in itself, saying biblical, you think big, and it never gets big. It always stays very small. And some people might be like, "Well, that's just it's just being artsy. It's being dramatic about it."
Yeah,
and
like conceptually, it's like it's grand ideas are like the Antichrist, and it's like good versus evil, God versus the devil, demons versus angels. None of that is ever explored throughout this series. And granted, it is the 1970s. Limitations are there when it comes to storytelling and special effects.
Fuck, Star Wars had already been made, dude.
Yeah,
Star
but
Wars.
Like, do something. And I was actually thinking of this the other day, and I don't want to kind of pick up on something you're going to pair it with, but it is a contemporary of a lot of other major horror franchises of the time.
You're not gonna pick what I.
Okay, I won't pick it. But I was just thinking.
I can almost maybe not guarantee it, but I don't think you're gonna pick what I.
Okay, so I was gonna mention like it is mentioned and talked about all of the same 70s and 80s big time horror franchises. Yeah. With like Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and the Omen movies are in there. But I also feel like they're kind of not talked about or revered as much as those movies. In any way. Like it's almost like, the Omen is there, like the first movie people mention, but no one really talks about the sequels. Yeah. Even like The Exorcist, it's mentioned in the same breath as that. And I would say the Exorcist sequels offer a little bit more, it's dealing with similar themes of demonic possessions and things like that. But yeah, this movie is so I just can't get over the ending, and I don't want to give away the ending, but it's so anticlimactic.
It's not great either. Connor, you haven't gotten a chance to say anything.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I've always viewed the Omen franchise as like kind of a prototype to what is now Final Destination. Just kind of looking for an excuse to have some wildly creative murder take place on screen and, kind of filling the gaps with something interesting, I don't think people care about that part of it that much when it comes to Final Destination, but I do think, the Omen franchise kind of has this other ambition to kind of explore these topics that Andrew accurately described, they kind of don't. I think the new movie that came out, 2 years ago, the first Omen, is not even a return to form. It's just like realizing a form that had kind of been laying dormant that entire time, and kind of taking full advantage of all these pieces that were already there.
Yeah. And I haven't seen that one.
It's I thought it was rather good.
Like, I thought it was very good.
Yeah, it's a legacy. I would call it a legacy prequel to the first movie.
Yeah,
which is a little hard to pull off considering how many decades it's been later. Yeah. But it kind of worked.
It leads directly into the first movie, and they set it up for sequels, which I actually kind of hope happens because I think there's the way that they play it out. I think there's a lot more story to tell, and there's a lot of interesting ideas that they're trying to explore. But the original movies are it's. You're looking for
look. I can deal with the first Omen, like it's not that bad, but so if I can get like new ones that are good, and then like forget about the rest of them, leading into the original, that's fine. I can do that. But this is one of the Yeah, this is the first movie in a while that I've been like, I think it's low. The last movie I've been this low on Unwatched Pile, I think was Southland Tales. Like, I think that's the last time I was this low on a movie. That
You at
I
least
almost
have more
want
to
to get
talk
it.
about.
What's that?
You at least have more to talk about when it comes to Southland Tales.
Yeah, it does have a little bit more meat on it. This I almost don't want it in my collection anymore. That's how much I didn't care for this. I was like, I am never gonna watch any of these again. Maybe the original, but really, I don't have to have this.
The original is important for movie historical context.
It is.
Richard Donner, the success of that movie is what got Richard Donner to the job to make Superman.
Sure.
And of course, Richard Donner would go on to make other movies.
I care about that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I don't mind the original Omen movie because I actually appreciate it for what it is, context of the time. It's also, I don't know if they had to make sequels, but I guess the first movie was such a success that they almost were like, hey, we can make more money off of this. Let's do it again. Roll it back again. But then after that, kind of similar to what a lot of other horror franchises, it just gets kind of worse and worse as it goes along. The fourth movie, which is in this set, is actually a TV movie. Once you start getting to TV movies in your horror franchise, it's done. It's really done.
Most of the time, it's like, okay, you know. But yeah, let's not talk about it anymore.
Now, I'm curious what you're going to pair up with it.
Look, my pairing is not. The movie I'm pairing it with is not like a grand masterpiece that's going to be like a contrast, but it's something I would spend my time gladly way more, like I would watch this movie 20 times in a row before I'd watch the final conflict again. But we're going to go back to Connor first. Mm-hmm. He's going to tell us what he matched with his first time watch.
So I loved when Andrew talked about, when we were talking about property is no longer a theft, how, you know, maybe it's helpful if you're kind of aware of Italian history at the time in the 1970s and what the landscape of that country was like. But you also kind of don't have to, because the topics being explored are so applicable to pretty much any time, any place, anywhere, which is why my pairing is Office Space.
Nice.
So very similar. A disillusioned employee decides that he doesn't decide to really become a nightmare for his boss, but I think he kind of inadvertently does do that. It's more for selfish reasons in Office Space, but it's exploring a lot of the same ideas, doing this one-man rebellion, against the system, and hilarity ensues. I think the common thread that, that this idea being explored, that though the idea of working at a company like Initech in Office Space is so debilitating, and that, you know, being allergic to money and being a bank teller is so debilitating, but that exploring the woes of that can be so funny at the same time that we can all kind of collectively laugh at that, I think is pretty profound. And especially Office Space. Office Space is rarely are there movies where I laugh so frequently as I do throughout this. And I think it's probably one of the best examples. And it's just, you're connecting 1970s Italy to 1990s United States.
I love it.
And without missing a beat, really exploring the same ideas. And there's not that much different, except, you know, the language that they're speaking and the time frame they're living in. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. You're making kind of matchups that I love. I love like things that on the surface seem like they don't fit, like they just from two different worlds. But underneath the hood, they're very much they tie in together. I like it. Awesome. It's been a while since I've seen Office Space. I believe I have it in the collection. It's just one of them ones I just haven't gotten back around to again. Andrew, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I talk about a movie that's infinitely rewatchable, and it's always seems to always be on TV most times. And yeah, it's something I've had in my collection for a long time. Yeah, the DVD was super popular with people. Then the Blu-ray came out, also super popular with collectors. It's directed by Mike Judge, who typically didn't direct a lot of movies. He's more known for doing television. Yeah, Beavis and Butthead, which in and of itself is a satire of society, as well as King of the Hill. And speaking of which, they brought King of the Hill back recently, so that's an interesting set in that modern time. They brought Beavis and Butthead back recently as well.
That when that Beavis and Butthead came back, they just
weren't a fan.
No, I love it.
Okay.
I love Beavis and Butthead. Yeah.
So yeah, he's talk about someone who's very, on the pulse of satire within our modern society. Mike Judge, of course, didn't he do Idiocracy? Isn't that him as well?
That's him. I believe he at least wrote it. Didn't he write it at least?
I think so.
Yeah. He might have directed. He might have directed it too.
I can't remember actually, but this movie specifically is like workplace comedy, but also poking fun at the 9-to-5 cubicle jobs that people ended up getting, and it's just you're just like a cog in a machine. You're just another brick in the wall. You're just absolutely
he did
a mindless person. He
did write and direct Idiocracy.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very fascinating how Office Space, which came out in 1999, I think, it's still relevant today in terms of like the way in which our society is kind of waking up to the pitfalls of just living to work as opposed to living in general. And the movie's poking fun at all that. Like I think Ron Livingston's such an underrated character actor. He pops up in so many things, and he's always relatively pretty solid in his roles. And in this one specifically, I think he's really, really good of the guy who just the premise is interesting and kind of odd, where he just gets hypnotized to one day just stop giving a shit. And it's just like, you know what? I'm just not going to care about the bullshit of life, specifically surrounding my job, and just do things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna go to work, but I'm not gonna care because they don't care about me as an employee. Why should I care about doing more work for them? All this kind of stuff. Jennifer Aniston is in the movie. This was, of course, around the time where she was in Friends, big star in Friends, and now she does. Actually, she's doing a lot more television and movies, but mostly still doing television with the morning show and stuff like that. But yeah, it's what an interesting movie. His neighbor in the movie is great, played by Dietrich Bader. Who's like, the walls are so thin they can just hear each other in the walls.
They just knock.
And they just knock on each other's walls. And he's like he's the opposite. He was already on that level that Ron Livingston gets to, because he's like this regular blue collar working guy who just kind of lives his own life and does his own thing. And that's kind of what the movie is really trying to get to. You know what I mean? Living with some sense of autonomy, some sense of freedom in your life, and not just being essentially a slave to capitalism, which is kind of what the capitalist system really wants. They just need people to do the work in order to feed the machine. And this movie's kind of pointing that out. Good pick.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, please.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
tell us about Sister Act 2.
Oh yeah, Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit.
I love that movie.
Yeah, what's interesting, I don't own any of the Sister Act movies. I don't have Sister Act or Sister Act 2. They used to come in a double feature pack together on Blu-ray. I wonder if that's still available.
Didn't they reissue them? Didn't somebody?
They might have. You may be right.
Shout put them out. Didn't Shout put them out?
It may be Shout.
I think it's Shout.
I feel like those would be good Shout Select releases if they aren't already.
I believe they did. Yeah.
But something that coincidentally I think needs a re-release of some kind, and that is the Peter Weir film Dead Poets Society.
Oh wow!
Yeah, this was put out by Disney / Buena Vista a long time ago. This and what's the Good Morning Vietnam, both put out by Disney Buena Vista, both put out, goodness, well over a decade ago.
Those will never get another release again.
Yeah, and I would love if these would get some type of remasters or restorations. But the reason I picked this is because the Bing Crosby character in here is someone who inspires people to change for the better, inspires people to uplift their lives and to kind of live for themselves, if you will, and to really make the right decisions in life, and decisions specifically, not only the right ones, but the ones that are right for them, as opposed to sticking with some type of rubric and sticking with some type of system, some type of tradition that that keeps them bogged down, that keeps them oppressed. Like I said, there's a little bit of that in here, but it is still within the rather rudimentary, religious society, religious background, if you will. The Robin Williams character in here is very much takes things several steps forward when it comes to him being a teacher who is inspiring these young boys in this. I believe isn't it a private Catholic school? It's a private school of some
I think
kind. So that's kind of the
it's a
religious
boarding school
connection.
too, right? They live at the school.
Yes,
I
it's like a
believe.
boarding school. Yeah. But I thought it was some type of religious connection in
Yeah,
there.
I think it is a Catholic school as well.
Yeah, it's either this or what's the movie also that came out several years later?
Toy Soldiers?
No, the movie with Brendan Fraser where he goes to the school and he's secretly Jewish and he's got to keep that under wraps. And he plays football for the school.
Oh,
Anywho,
sure.
He's at a boarding school in that movie. This movie is also set at a boarding school. But the character of Robin Williams in this movie is constantly trying to inspire these young men to think outside the system that they're in, think outside the traditions of their social class, really, because they're all wealthy young men. They're all within a certain social class, and they're all at this very rich boarding school, and it's very regimented, it's very conservative.
School Ties.
And what's that?
School Ties.
School Ties. That's the one with Brendan Fraser. But in this movie here, he's inspiring them through literature, through poetry, through freedom of thought, through freedom of mind, freedom of thinking. And that's always something I've kind of instilled upon people myself. I'm like, stop thinking within a box, stop thinking within certain rules that society tells you to live within. Think for yourself, think outside of those things. Don't be oppressed, and be aware of the oppression that is around you. Be aware of all of those things. In this movie here, Robin Williams is trying to do that, but he's also living within, he's employed within that kind of society and rubric to where he, bucks up against the trend, and there are consequences for that. This movie has an astounding young cast in it. A young cast that people you may recognize. Robin Williams, of course, Robert Sean Leonard, Ethan Hawke, Josh Charles. Those would be people who probably the most prominent that would go on to do a lot of bigger things within their careers. Kurtwood Smith is in the film as well. And this movie's much darker and way more serious, approaching these types of ideas as opposed to going my way. Obviously different times. This movie came out in 1989. Going My Way came out in 1944. The sentimentalities of the audience, sentimentalities of society, vastly different. And this movie is, for all of its remembrance of being, not heartwarming, but being profound, is also very serious and also very melancholic and sad as well, without giving anything away. I mean, there is a price to be paid for freedom of thought. Nothing in life is free ever, really. And the movie, kind of goes along those lines. Also, it's a coming of age film too for a lot of the young characters within the movie. Yeah, excellent film. I think it's well known through just for Robin Williams being his great performance in this film. And I just thought of this movie immediately because I was thinking of connecting it. Like, who is an inspiring character that inspired the people around him? And I was thinking of the Robin Williams character immediately, similar to the Bing Crosby character in here, who they both kind of shake things up in similar ways, yet in different ways. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I decided to go with Peter Weir's Dead Poet Society to match up with Going My Way. I'm pretty sure both of you have seen Dead Poet Society.
That's an amazing choice, Andrew. So I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and the big thing at that school was sports. At every sport across the board, very successful. And I was a part of that, but I was also, the guy that loved English class, the guy that was, into watching foreign movies. So watching this movie at that time was pretty profound, and just like seeing myself kind of represented in a lot of the characters, and like feeling like the Robin Williams character was, speaking directly to me, that, even though I was, into these things and, pursuing this future, I majored in English in college and all this stuff, and pursuing that, that I was still like on the right track. Because sometimes when, you're in an environment where everybody is really focusing on this one specific thing, and, you're existing kind of outside of that, or within groups that are, not a part of that, it can be hard to, exist in that in-between space. Mm-hmm. And, movies like this play a big role in, not just feeling validated, but feeling, strong in the beliefs that you're holding.
Yeah, there's always this, especially at that age, teenagers are always trying to quote unquote fit in with their peers
Mm-hmm.
and their contemporaries, and peer pressure is a thing, and then they're always trying to fit in with the different trends when it comes to styles, when it comes to whatever the case may be. And then there's always those group of people who are on the outside, the outsiders. You know what I mean? And they're kind of like the outcast within that society, and they never really, and they're always kind of made fun of. They're kind of pariahs. People don't really treat them the same way, and they end up being, at least in my case, the most interesting and just regular nice people you'll ever meet. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's all different cliques within youth groups and society and stuff like that. And then as you get older, those things really don't change. There's even more adult cliques and groups of that spot up when you get older as well. And a lot of people tend to have this almost immature, childlike mentalities when it comes to those things. Like we never really grow up in many of those facets. Also the idea of it being okay with being okay by being different is something I think is also very powerful, that I think a lot of people are struggle with. You know what I mean? Being different, not like you were mentioning, not going with the flow, being somebody who's more into, literature, more into reading, as opposed to what everybody else is doing, which is, whatever at the time. It's interesting how like every generation has those types of people, or has those types of breakdowns of society.
I think as a youth, you go to conformity because it's about fitting in. But I think as an adult,
and it's easier.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say as an adult, you do it because it's convenient and it's easy to fit it. To do not you're not doing it to be. You don't care about being different when you kind of fall in line. You're doing it because it's easy. Because the world creates so many things that make you distracted and make you too tired to try to fit outside the normal thing.
It's very true. And what is interesting is also like over time things change. For example, when I was in high school, probably when people a little older than us were in high school, comic books were considered uncool. They were considered, like, if you were a comic book nerd or a comic book reader or fan, you were part of the ostracized society. And then look what happened. Comic book heroes became cool, and now everybody knows about them.
Now they're uncool.
And now it's the other end. Like, if you know about it, you're too cool, I guess. It's kind of
now you're just
you're like a regular. That's considered like regular stuff now.
No. Now you're pretentious for knowing all the comic book stuff.
Yeah. You're not exactly. Cool. No. Like if I know the history of Batman, I know too much. I'm not.
We know Batman. We saw all the movies, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I need you to tell me about the comics, dude.
Yeah, it's so interesting how those things change. Like what's uncool is now cool. What was pretentious is now not pretentious, but what was unpretentious is now pretentious. It's just massively different compared to the last 25 years ago. But yeah, both of these movies are kind of similar in that vein of kind of, bucking up against certain trends and trying to progress things along. Because there's nothing worse within our society than things being stagnant, things being a case of arrested development where we're just not progressing. We're just stuck in our ways, and things become old really, really fast, as we know. We have to continue to progress as a society in not only the physical world with like technology and stuff, but like mentally as well. And it's always a constant battle.
Tell that to the politicians.
Yeah.
All right.
They never want to change because
they never want anything.
They're afraid it's going to mess with their money. Yeah, but that's a whole different story.
Like
Elio Petrie would agree with that, I think.
He would exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what he was talking about. All right. Well, I'm going to finish this off in a fantastical way. Even the title kind of feels like a finale. They both have kind of a finality to them. Final conflict. This one is not an exact pairing in the sense of story and everything, but it's got the same ultimate thing. It's called End of Days, people. This is the better movie to watch.
Nice.
Watch End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's a regular. You know how many times we've mentioned that movie on Chasing Labels because of the director? Say his name.
Peter Hymes.
Peter Hymes. Every time we bring Peter Hymes up, End of Days gets mentioned.
End of Days, people. All right, so End of Days. It's got it's similar in the ways of like the story begins where there's like this whole like prophesizing of like an antichrist that's gonna come. But in this case, it's not being born at the beginning. It's more about like the child that will have the antichrist is born. Like the main female character is born, and they basically have to protect her and keep an eye on her instead of trying to kill her when she's a child. They watch after her. So there is this like secret society kind of thing, kind of like how the Omen series is, where there's these people within the religion that are like keeping an eye. And there's this whole behind the scenes thing. So that's in here. She grows up. And now we're in 1999. Of course, the whole Y2K thing is a part of the story. This movie did come out in 1999, November of 1999. So right on the cusp of us turning into the new millennium. And that's really plays into a lot of the fears in this movie, because it's literally like at that time they're saying like when it turns to the year 2000, that's when the end of the world's going to happen. All the fears were thrown in there. And in this case, the Antichrist isn't being born, but the devil's going to come and have sex with this girl, and then the Antichrist is going to come. So it is a little different, but Peter is it Peter Gabriel? Is that his name? Or Gabriel Burns? Gabriel Burns in this movie is how Sam Neill should have been in the final conflict. Just fucking grabbing women and making out with them and then blowing up buildings. That's what he should have been doing as the Antichrist. Instead, he just walks around and tries to play it safe. If I'm the fucking Antichrist and I can just do things, I'm fucking doing some crazy shit. So yeah.
But who has to stop the devil?
Oh, who has to stop the fucking devil? The most bummerest version of Arnold Schwarzenegger, his most bummer character that he's ever played in any movie, where he's a guy who's a widower, whose child's dead, and he wants to kill himself, and he's an ex-cop, and he's a drunk, and now he's like working for some private security thing with what's his name? Who's the guy that plays his partner in the movie? God damn it. He was in a Few Good Men. Kevin Pollak.
Kevin Pollak.
Yeah, plays his partner. He's always great. He always plays that guy that never wants to be there. He's just like, get me out of here. He's always like, let's hurry up, let's go. And so he's his partner, and things just start happening, man. He starts, this movie has a visual style kind of like Seven. It's got that kind of really grimy, just low lighting, this grimy underworld that you get to go through. And I think it looks great. I think it looks cool. This is not a great movie. It's a fun movie. It's a really fun movie to watch. Arnold's I think he's like very aware of like how, like, I mean, he's kind of getting to the like past his peak.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of wienering out.
This is late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. Arnold, before he became governor of California.
Yeah.
So after this, I think he would do like, what's it, The Sixth Day? He would do Collateral Damage, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines.
Yeah, this was it. This was like maybe the last one that I could say that I'm like, okay, I like this movie. Because them other ones you just mentioned, they're not ones I go back to. Like, I don't go back to Collateral Damage. Terminator 3 is fine, but it's like, we didn't need it. But in this movie, he's like, he knows that he has to have one-liners. He knows he has to have all them things, and he throws them in there. There's one scene where like Kevin Pollak's like, he accidentally hit Kevin Pollak, and he's like, "Oh, you hit me!" He's like, "Stop being a pussy!" He says it loud, like, I'm like, Jesus.
Unintentional comedy in the end of days movie.
Yeah, he's great.
I always pitch this movie in the simplest form. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger versus the devil. That's all you need to know, really.
It is, and there's some like there's some cool moments in this movie. There's some like, I like when like at the end, like when the devil finally shows up in his full form. He's like this big fucking like bat, crazy looking thing. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it looks fake, but it's kind of cool. I don't know what to say. It's just a way better time than the final conflict. I would watch this movie a ton. I would watch it back to back to back times before I'd watch that movie again. Connor, anything on End of Days?
Just really familiar with the quote. I guess him yelling at the devil character, calling him a choir boy, very iconic.
Yeah. You know, I would have maybe picked Devil's Advocate as well, but unfortunately, I think I don't own it right now. Like I had it on DVD, and then I think I gave it to my parents. So I was like, I'll just rebuy that one day. But I would have probably picked Devil's Advocate.
You were talking about the Antichrist grabbing women and making out with them. Like that's the devil's advocate.
Really. And Al Pacino is the devil. I mean, that's.
Yeah, there've been a lot of on-screen devils that have been rather iconic, and Al Pacino's always on, somewhere near the top of the list of the devil on screen.
But Gabriel Byrne in here, man, he is getting
underrated actor. That Gabriel Byrne
is, man. Him in Hereditary, of course, he was in Hereditary. Yes. You know, he's playing the devil, man, to the 11. Like it's good, it's fun. I just wish Sam Neill would have gotten direction to just amp it up a little bit. You know, you're the Antichrist, dude. You're like, I mean, come on, grab a tit, do something.
Have you guys ever seen? Speaking of portrayals of the devil on screen, All That Money Can Buy or The Devil and Daniel Webster?
Yes, All That Money Can Buy is that the Criterion
1940s
release.
That is that's a top 3 portrayal of the devil on screen. The Walter Houston performance in that movie. That's turning it to 11, but in the context of like what you could get away with in the 1940s.
Yeah, and there's been like movies featuring like demons and the devil going back to the silent era, like Faust.
Oh yeah,
like the story of Faust and stuff like that's been adapted several times. You know, this idea of making a deal with the devil at the crossroads or something like that has always been within like movies and
the Ralph Macchio movie
like
Crossroads.
I mean,
amazing movie.
I love Crossroads. I got it. Yeah. Also, there's a moment in that because I saw this movie when I was a kid, so like. There's also a moment in this movie. There's some imagery in this movie that's kind of freaky. Like there was that one time where she like bites into that like fruit and then like looks at it and it's got like all these like protruding arms and hands, just like doing weird shit. And then like the one that always stuck with me was the image of the guy on the subway. There's that homeless guy on the subway with like I think he's either light skinned or he's albino, and he's got like the blonde hair and like it's all in like little puff balls all over his head. He comes up to her, he's just like staring at her, and then he like just falls apart like he's made of glass, and he's like his head's like in half and he's just like still smiling at her. Like it used to creep me out as a kid, and it was like in my dreams for a while. But yeah, End of Days, man, it's a fun one. And to go back to the things that he should that he should have grabbed a breast. This would have fit in with the script they already made. They're killing all the babies, and before he kills a baby, he takes the breast out of a baby's mouth and then kills the baby. He could have even fit it into the original script. That would have been the time he could have grabbed a boob.
That's an interesting thing. Is he's not doing the killing himself. He's sending his minions.
I know that's what's so shitty about it. It's like you could have done it.
Yeah, he's sending his minions, and we don't really see it. I understand the context of being in 1981, not being able to show that on screen. It's very interesting how that's kind of come up recently because Radiance just released that movie also from the 70s where it's like Would You Kill a Child or something like that. I forgot what the title is directly. And I brought up this idea like movies of that time kind of had those similar types of things where like that's like a subgenre of like evil kids in movies and what you should do about them. And I don't think I mentioned The Omen, but that's kind of like the pinnacle of like what would you do if like an evil child was the Antichrist? Would you, get rid of them? Or is that, morally going too far? And those movies kind of ask that question because, it's brought up several times throughout the Omen movies of like, would you, because there's a specific way in which you have to get rid of Damien. And it's like, would you do it if you were in these people's shoes? And initially they're reluctant about it, but then they give over pretty easily once they realize the gravity of the situation that's going on.
Yeah.
But it's always like one of those moral questions of like, would you kill one person to save millions or whatever, or some of the philosophical
Would you go back in time and kill baby Hitler?
Yeah, that's another one that's always brought up.
Where's that movie? All right. Where's that movie? The Go Back in Time and Kill Hitler is a baby movie. All right. Well, that is it for this installment of the Unwatched Pile. Connor, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you both for having me.
Of course, man. We'll have you back again. We always like helping our fellow collectors delve into their unwatched piles. So for sure, have you back as soon as we can. And yeah, if you can't watch this, if you're wanting to watch or listen later, go to the Chasing Labels places. You know where they are. Andrew, thanks for joining us once again.
Okay.
You have to be here.
I have to be here. So, okay.
All right. You'll catch Andrew on Chasing Labels proper.
Yeah, next episode will be July 27th.
7th, yes. Yep. Guests TBD. I don't know. Do we know for sure?
I think it will be Ian Schultz, who was supposed to join us recently. I think he's rescheduled for that episode. So that will be a nice episode for us to get into. I think so far it's going to be Criterion, pretty heavy episode. Couple of indicators, some imprint. As always, they never stop announcing things, and then we'll see what else gets announced between then and now.
Yeah. Well, all right, people. Thanks again for listening and watching. And hey, what are you still doing here? You got to get out of here. Please just go watch some movies, please.